let's go ahead and get started.
Okay, well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar, Getting Started with Windows Computers, as Susan just mentioned. This is part of our Getting Started with Tech series here at the Champaign Public Library. My name is Jordan Neal, and I am the career librarian here at the library, so thank you all for joining us. If you are new to Zoom or just need a refresher, we will be sure to discuss where things are located, and then we'll talk about options on how to interact with us. For Zoom, there are some buttons or icons at the bottom of your screen. On the far left, you will have the options that control your sound or your speaker. Then in the middle, you'll have a couple of other buttons that will control what you can do during this webinar. Do not worry about seeing your video. The only videos that can be seen are myself and my colleagues Susan and Kat, since this is a webinar. So back to the buttons, you will hopefully see three. The first one is chat, which looks like a little comment bubble, as Susan says, and you're welcome to use chat to ask any questions for our instructor, and we will relay the questions to her verbally. You also have, and again, feel free to ask us to repeat any demos, ask questions, things like that, or if you just generally want to converse with us. And we also have a raised hand button or option. You can use this to unmute yourself so you can speak and ask your question out loud if you prefer. We do understand that typing out a question might not be as easy as just speaking it, so that's an option as well. Throughout the webinar, we will be pausing for questions, but you can interrupt at any time in the chat and or raising your hand. So you don't have to wait till the end for your questions. And sometimes it helps to share those questions as we go along so we can build on learning for everyone involved, including ourselves. So live transcriptions are enabled, so you can hopefully see those at the bottom here of Zoom. It's a little CC button. And if you would like the transcriptions to show up or turn off, you can click on that. If you'd like to hide them entirely, you just tap on the live transcription button and then select hide subtitles. I think you also have the option to drag it around, right, Susan, if you want to move it around on your screen.
You should.
I believe we will put a link to the handout for today's webinar in the chat in just a moment. Kat will help me out with that. And you can use that if you want, but we will also send out an email once we have the video ready to go and we put it up on our YouTube channel. Susan most likely will send out a follow-up email with the link to the video and a digital copy of the handout. If you wanted to come in person to the library, we also have a printed copy ready for you to, we can have a printed copy ready for you to pick up, and we could also have you pick it up through our curbside services as well. So that's everything I have. So I'll go ahead and first introduce my co-host, Kat, who will be helping with relaying questions to our instructor and answering questions within the chat. So thank you, Kat. And so with that, we can now move on to introducing our amazing instructor, Susan Winkler, who is the library's technology librarian, and she'll be leading us today when it comes to getting started with Windows computers. So Susan, with that, I'll turn it over to you.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Sorry about a little bit of technical difficulties at the start, but you know that's something you can always expect with with technology, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and just like we usually do, I'll share my my screen, and then what should happen today is that my video will hopefully just show my profile photo while we're working with the actual live demos. Just as usual, if you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat, or feel free to raise your hand, as Jordan mentioned, so that we can unmute you and then you can ask your question out loud too. So, all right, well, welcome everybody. I'm gonna go ahead and get started. I'm hoping when I share my screen that you'll be able to see hopefully my PowerPoint here in just a second. So let's do the entire screen to start with. Okay, and then it's gonna get a little meta for just a second. I'm gonna move this down below, and then I'm gonna start my PowerPoint. So I'm hoping, can everyone see Intro to Windows Computers?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. All right, we're gonna start from the beginning here. It's our lovely slideshow screen here. All right. So the things we're going to cover today, we're going to cover some terminology and descriptions because, of course, just like anything, technology has its own language. Just like learning a new language, there's all the terms and vocabulary. So we'll talk a little bit about terminology and descriptions. And then we'll talk about the desktop elements, what the desktop is, the different pieces and pieces of what you see on the screen. And we'll talk about Windows, and this is Windows not as in Windows 10, which is the operating system or OS on the computer, but it's the windows that open each of your programs. So when you open a new program or an app on the computer, it's going to open in a window, and we'll talk about how to move those and size them and the different things you can do with those. And then we'll actually open a program and play around with that a little bit. And then we'll go into our settings and our help menu to see how you can kind of customize your beginning experience with your Windows 10 computer. And we'll talk about the help menu and how to seek help from the computer. You, of course, can always seek help from the lovely staff here at the Champaign Public Library as well. We're always willing to help with Windows 10 or other tech questions and other things that you might be interested in learning. But we'll show you where there's a help menu on your actual computer. Okay, and then we'll talk about how to start up and shut down and the different ways to say, put your computer to sleep so that it doesn't generate as, doesn't lose as much power and it's still there so you can come back to it later on. Okay, so to start with some terminology and descriptions. In general, your computer, right? Your Windows 10 computer, the computer in general. So this could be a Mac, could be a Windows computer, could be a Chromebook. In general, the computer is an electronic device for storing and processing data based on a program or logic sequence involving numbers and codes. That's essentially a fancy way of saying that computers have a language. You may have heard of binary code, or that computers basically go in ones and zeros. So it's basically the same idea as turning your light switch on and off. So the more light switches go on and off, the more things you are telling your computer to do. So, okay. A desktop computer is one that usually will sit on a desk and will have a separate monitor, processor, keyboard, and mouse. So in this picture, the processor is this whole unit right here on the left-hand side, and then the monitor is in the middle. It's basically where you see that little HP symbol, and then you have your keyboard and your mouse. Okay, the monitor, again, it's basically the computer component that allows users to view images. A laptop computer, though, will have all of those things together. And in general, the idea of the laptop is that you could set it in your lap. It's more portable. You can take it, you know, wherever you might need to go. And the portable computer contains the monitor, the keyboard, processor, and mouse all in one. And the mouse is usually referred to as the touchpad. It's that little rectangular square that you see on a laptop computer. Okay. So other things to know, every computer has a hard drive. Even a Chromebook has a hard drive. It's just with Chromebooks, there's not a lot of storage on that particular Chromebook, but every computer will have a hard drive, and it stores all of your digital content. It stores your documents, your pictures, music, videos, the programs on your computer, your applications, and your operating system. So it's all stored on a hard drive. Now you can have an internal hard drive, which is what the picture is on the right, or an external hard drive. And we're going to talk more about external hard drives next week when we cover file storage, file organization, and then the week after when we cover file storage, because those can be great tools for helping you back up your files and taking care of making sure that you don't lose them if something happens to your computer. But just know that your computer has a hard drive, and the hard drive is doing a lot of work behind the scenes to help make your computer run. Okay. A flash drive, which many of you may have heard of as a USB drive, jump drive, thumb drive, it's all kind of mixed with the same, those are all the same terminology basically for a pocket-sized piece of data storage that saves files. So those are things that you can plug into your computer, put files on them, take it out, and then you can take it and plug it into a different computer if you need to or want to. Okay. All right, so now we're going to get into a little bit more of what you see on your actual desktop, on your actual computer. So the desktop is the primary display area on the computer screen. You can kind of think of it as your home base. So it's the first thing you see when you start up, usually typically when you start up the computer and you can actually start to do things. So this area here, if you see this image, it's the blue space there is really your desktop. And then down below, there's some tools and things that we're going to talk about. Okay. So an icon is a small representation of either a file or a program on your computer. So whenever you click on, say, Google Chrome or Firefox or whatever you used to get to the webinar today, you probably had to click on an icon to get to it. Okay. And then the window, and not to be confused with Windows 10, which is the operating system, but a window is the area of the screen that displays information with a specific program, independent of the other parts of the screen. So it's when you open a program, that program is going to open in a window. And then you can have multiple windows open at the same time on your screen and move between them and go back and forth between them if you need to. So if you're copying something from one place and moving it to another, you can have both of those open at the same time. Okay. Okay, and then we're going to go over all of this in the live demo in just a moment too. So, and also don't worry about having to write all of this down. I'm hoping that Kat put them in the, Kat, you put the link in the chat, right?
I did, yeah.
Okay,
it's the one
excellent.
that starts with CDN.
Perfect.
For those looking for it.
Yeah, so you don't need to take notes or anything. You know, we'll have that handout. We'll also send it with the follow-up email too. So this is just kind of an introduction to these, so don't feel like you have to write down all of these definitions or things either. So the taskbar, if you noticed in that previous image where we had the desktop back here, down here at the bottom of this image, this area that's in black on this screenshot here, that is known as your taskbar. So it's still considered part of your desktop elements, but it has a very specific function. So it's basically a strip of icons that are used to access frequently used programs. Like in this case, if everybody recognizes the E here for Internet Explorer, this is our File Explorer. We're going to talk about that a little bit today and then more in the next 2 weeks. It's very important, a very useful tool to have. And then, you know, things that you have open on your computer will also show up here. So like here in this screenshot, I had Photoshop open and Google Chrome open. So the taskbar does a lot of specific things for us. You also have the ability to search for things in this search function right here. And that's also part of your taskbar. Okay, so it's usually located at the bottom of your desktop, but you can actually move it. So if you prefer to have it on the sides or on the top, you can actually move it if you want. Okay. And you can put different, you can also, I should mention also, you can pin things to the taskbar so that it's easier for you to find them. And I can show you how to do that as well. Okay. So the system tray is a very specific part of the taskbar that's usually off on the right-hand side. And you'll see things there like the date and the time. And usually if you have a laptop, you might see this, which is your battery life on your device. And you might see your Wi-Fi signal to know that you're connected to Wi-Fi. And you might see your volume and then some other signals and also some notifications. So notifications include things like when your computer runs a virus check and tells you everything's good and it didn't find any viruses. That might be one of these notifications over here. And again, we're going to show you all these in just a moment in a live demo too. Okay. The last of our terminology and description is the start menu. And the start menu is the central launching points for programs and tasks. And that looks just like little four panes of a window. And there's a lot of important stuff that you can do from that start menu. And we're going to play around with that as well. Okay, so I know I've put a lot out there at you. So I'm going to go ahead and do a live demo. And we can take questions in the chat and we can take questions with raised hands too. So I'm going to go ahead and move out of my PowerPoint here, and I'm hoping you all can still see. Looks a little meta for the moment, but I'm going to go ahead and minimize that. And this is actually the desktop on my work laptop screen. So right now, instead of having just the blue space for the desktop, I actually have a photo of the library. So if you can see that photo of the library here, that is on top of my desktop space. Okay, any questions before I start the demo here? Give a pause here.
No questions right now, Susan.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So what I am on today is actually my device that I have right now is my work laptop. So for me, my monitor, my keyboard, and my mouse and my processor are all contained in one. So what you're seeing here is the desktop screen for my laptop. Okay. Oops, I gotta one more thing. Okay. The monitor, I wish I could show you with the document camera, but I don't have it right away at the moment. So the monitor, again, this is my monitor area too, which is showing the taskbar down here and everything up here. Okay. And then we've got, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. So the icons here. So for example, I have the icon for the web browser Firefox over here on the very left-hand side. Hoping you can see that. I've got something called Silhouette Studio, something called OBS Studio, VLC Media Player. So all of these things that you see here are icons for programs. I also have icons for folders. Like right here, the Adobe folder, that has the Adobe programs in it. So if I open this up, this folder, if you can see, I'm hoping you can see the Adobe folder now. Did that open up?
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Yeah, I
You
see
can
it.
see it? Okay, perfect. So here, these are programs, but they live inside this folder on the desktop, which is an icon for a folder. Okay, and then I can also have regular files here. So this one was a PowerPoint that we did the other day. So you can see this is just a file that is sitting on the desktop. Okay. Questions about that? Not so far? Okay. Okay. So if I was to go ahead and open a program, so let's say I'm going to go ahead and open Firefox. I want to go out onto the internet. And I'm going to go ahead and go to our website, which is champaign.org. So I'm hoping y'all can see this too. Hoping. Okay. This is now the space for my window is everywhere on the screen except for down here at the very bottom where my taskbar is. Okay, so this is a window. Now I can make it bigger or smaller, and I'll demonstrate this for everyone in a minute too, but I can make it bigger or smaller and move it around. So I'm going to make it a little smaller for us at the moment. So you can see it looks a little bit more like the one in the screenshot there in the picture. So the window is this space right here. And then you can still see the desktop behind it. So here's my desktop with all of the other things. I'll try not to move the mouse quite so fast. Okay. And then down below here, this is the taskbar. And if you see the taskbar right now, we talked about the start menu. So that's down here in the left-hand corner, which will launch all of those programs and do other things, functions that we can do there. We have a search box here. We're going to cover that more in a few minutes. And then we have some things that are pinned, which means they're always here on the taskbar. So that includes File Explorer, which we're going to talk about, the Microsoft Store, where if I wanted to go and get more programs to put on my computer, I could go there. A shortcut to email. This is called the Snipping Tool. That's something that I use regularly to take screenshots. And then you'll notice here that I have Zoom open. That's the blue with the little white camera. And then PowerPoint, because we're doing a PowerPoint today. And then also Firefox, which we just opened up here. So this is all along my taskbar. And then a little bit further to the right is the system tray. And we'll get into what you can do with the system tray in a few minutes here. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and pause now and ask if there are any questions. No questions so far?
No questions so far.
All right, let's go ahead and play a little bit. And I'm going to go ahead and continue with the live demo with our desktop. So when you think of your desktop as your home base, you can and should think about the desktop as your place to customize what you want to do and what's easiest for you to use and do with your computer. So for example, for a lot of folks, you want to customize it like I did, where you put a photo back here. That's totally okay. You can do that if you want, or you can leave it with just the blue screen. Oops, I gotta move this over a little bit. Okay, so, but think about it as the place where if you want to get to something quickly, you can put it here on your desktop, and then you can get to it more quickly. Okay, so the Start menu down here in the bottom corner, when I click on the Start menu, I get to the main point of access for applications, files, and power functions. So I can open the Start menu by pressing the Windows button on my keyboard as well. So if you're on a Windows computer right now and you look down at your keyboard, you might see a button that looks exactly like this little logo, and that is the desktop shortcut to get to the start menu. So if I hit the keyboard one, I will also get to that. So I can either hit it this way, or I can hit the keyboard button. That'll bring it up too. People are usually either more mouse oriented or more keyboard shortcut oriented. As you go through working with computers, you might figure out which one you are, if you lean more toward keyboard shortcuts or more towards using the mouse to get to things. But I do like to show those when they're applicable.
Do you have a moment for a question?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we have a question here. Do you have different recycle bins?
So I have the one recycle bin that's up here in the top left corner on my computer. So this one is the actual recycle bin over here. Usually you just have the one, and you could make a shortcut to the recycle bin, or you could put it somewhere else on your computer too. But generally speaking, most folks will have the one recycle bin on their desktop here. And the recycle bin is a lot like your trash can in your office, where, you know, if you've written something out on paper and then you don't like what you've written, you crumple it up and you throw it in the trash can. It's still on your computer and it still stays there until someone comes and empties that trash bin. So right now, I think I have some things in here. Let's open it. Yeah, so I have a test folder in the recycle bin right now. So, but yeah, I just have the one. Yeah, good question. So, all right. So I can also get to that though if I wanted to by coming in here, tapping on the Windows button, and then looking at the list of programs. Now, if you notice right now, this list of programs, we only can see the things that's recently added and most of the A's. And of course, most of the A's are going to be Adobe products, right? I want you to know, and this is kind of tricky because it's not obvious, in between the list here where they're listed out and over here where there are little, what we call charms, which are these little square boxes, is a little scroll bar where you can move between and go lower in this alphabetical list. You won't necessarily see it when you first open it or when you hover off of it. So if you see right now where if I'm hovering over here, I cannot see that scroll bar, I wouldn't know that I can come up here and pull down like this to see the other programs in the list, okay? So I wanna make that more obvious for everyone, because when I first started working with Windows 10, I was like, how do I get to the lower, the lower programs? I want to get all the way to Z. I got to get to Zoom, which is all the way down at the bottom. So, okay. Any questions about the start menu so far? No?
Doesn't look like it.
Okay, so the other thing you can do from the start menu, you can also, as I mentioned a minute ago, you can open a program from here. So if you don't have a desktop icon for a program and you can't open it right from here, you can also come to the start menu and open it. So for example, I don't have an icon on there for Microsoft Word, but I can come here and I can look for Microsoft Word and find Microsoft Office, open that, it's not there. Let's see if it's under Word. Come down here and find it under Word 2016. So I can go ahead and tap on this, and I only have to tap once, and that will go ahead and
I do have a question real quick before you go on, if you wouldn't mind explaining that last part again.
About the scroll bar?
I think so.
Okay. So here, when I'm looking on the start menu, I can open programs directly from the start menu by tapping on them in this list of programs. If I can't see them all, which in this case I can only see the A's, I can hit the scroll bar here, hold down my left mouse button, and then navigate down further in the list of alphabetical programs to find the one that I need. So in this case, when I look at my desktop here, I don't actually have an icon on my desktop to start Microsoft Word. So since I don't have an icon to start it, I need to go and use the start menu and find it in this list. So then I would come down here and come to Word, and then click once to open it from there. Okay? Okay. Any questions about that? Okay. The other way that I can look for a program to open is by using the search bar down here. If I type here to search and I type in Word, you see how the best match that comes up is Word 2016, and it's an app, and I could click on it there too, and that would also open it for me. Okay. Okay, so there's basically 3 different possible ways you could get to a program on your computer. You can click on an icon on your desktop. You can come to your Start menu and search for it in the alphabetical list. Or you can search for it by typing in the name of the program. Okay? Good. Questions about that? No? Okay. I'm hoping not.
It looks clear for now.
Okay, thank you. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about opening that window and how to manage and do things within those the windows that you create when you open a program. So when I open Firefox here, and we've created this program, or sorry, we've created this window for that program. Can everyone see at the top that there are 3 buttons over here, 3 little symbols? There's a minus sign, a box, and an X. If you can see those are things that we can use to control our window and where it appears. So the minimize button, and I like to think of minimize as minus, means I'm going to make it smaller, and I'm going to take it off of my desktop screen. It's still going to be open, so I can still get into it and do stuff, but I'm just going to minimize it. Okay, so did everyone see how that moved? And where did it go? It came down here to the taskbar. And so now the taskbar here, with the little line underneath it, means that it's open, and it's just waiting for me to come back and click on it. So if I tap here, then I've opened that window again, and I can go ahead and continue doing what I was doing with it. All right. Now, when the windows are too small and you can't see everything that you want to be able to see with it, you can use something called maximize, which is going to make it bigger. And what maximize does is it maximizes the whole length and height of the desktop area that you have so that you can see more of it. Okay. If I want to see less of it, I can use that same middle button, which now says restore down. And something else to note, if I hover over something, does everyone see how it says minimize when I hover over it for a few seconds? And then it says maximize, and then this one should say close. So if you're not sure what a button or icon does on your computer, it's worth it to do something called hovering over it. And that just means you put your mouse on top of it, but you don't actually click. And it should hopefully tell you what that button's going to do. Now, again, since computers have a whole language all on their own here, you may not know what minimize means or what maximize means unless you've come to a workshop like this or found it out online. Again, most times with technology, if I don't know how to do something, I have to go and seek out someone to teach me how to do it. So there's lots of stuff that I don't know either. So, okay, so I'm going to go ahead and hit minimize again. So it comes down here onto the taskbar, and you can see some of these don't have lines underneath it. That means it's not open. The ones that have lines underneath them means that they are actively open, and you can get into them and do stuff with them. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and open Firefox again. Okay. And maximize it so that it's full screen, and then go ahead and restore down so that it goes back to that original size. Okay. The other thing you can do with Windows is you can actually move them around a little bit and place them where you want them on the desktop. So to do that, if you hover up here at the title bar, which is this area at the very top, and you hold down your left mouse button, and then you move it down or to the right or to the left or wherever you want to place it on your screen, you can move them around. So if you want to have more than one window that you can see at a time, you can move them around and put them next to each other. So let's say you're copying something from a website to Microsoft Word. Well, I can go ahead and open Microsoft Word over here and jump into Word. And then you see now I can't find my other window for Firefox because Word has opened up so that it's taking up the full screen. So what I can do is I can hit Restore Down, and then I can see my other window behind it. So you see, that's not very helpful either, right? Because I still can't use them at the same time. So what I can do, I can move it over a little bit, and you see how there's still a little bit of overlap between them? This is when I want to do something called resizing a window. And resizing means that I'm going to go over to the far left of this one until it turns into two arrows going in either direction. Hold down my left mouse button and move it to the right like this so that it takes up less space on my screen. Then I can grab it and, with my left mouse button up at the title bar, which is where the title is, where it says Document 1, and I can move it around. I can do the exact same thing with Firefox over here, my second window, by grabbing it, moving it around, and I can pull from the right side and move it over here so that then they're both able to be seen at the same time, and they're both taking up a little chunk of my desktop. Okay. I do caution you, if you try to grab from the top corner on the right-hand side in Windows, and for those of you with a Mac, this is true, but it's the left side for a Mac, you might accidentally hit one of these little icons, and the one you most often accidentally hit, trust me, I have done it many times, is close. And close is the X, and that actually closes out of your window and closes out of your program. So instead of being able to resize it, if I happen to just miss that and I hit this instead, like that, it closes out of my program. Okay, so when I go into Firefox, I'm going to do it again here, and open Firefox, and now it's open the same way. Oh, let's go ahead and get the Champaign library site up like this. So that is something I recommend when you're resizing Windows in Windows 10 environments. It's easier to come down and resize from the bottom left-hand corner because there's not a button there that you could accidentally do something like closing out the document. The reason I don't try to resize very often over here on the right-hand side at the bottom is because that is where this scroll bar allows you to move within the website. And if I tried to do it at the same time, I have to be very exact about when it turns into the two arrows. Is everybody seeing that? Where it just turned into the two arrows going diagonally from each other? And then I could hit it and move it. But more often than not, I accidentally hit this and end up scrolling down. Okay, so for Macs, same idea. Up in the top left corner, there's all the things where you can, close out of your program accidentally, or you can make it bigger when you don't mean to. So I usually grab from the other sides down here. Okay, any questions about resizing Windows? I'm gonna go ahead and resize this guy too. And I'm gonna grab him from the bottom here and just pull it down like this too. Okay, so you can resize them. So then if I wanted to do something like copy some of the text from here and put it into Word, it's pretty easy to go back and forth between the two of them. Okay, so that's one of those really handy skills that I think it's very nice to know how to do resizing of the windows and how to minimize and maximize them and close. Okay, questions?
I'm not seeing any questions so far.
Okay, perfect. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and close out of both of these by actually using the little X up there that turns red. And I usually refer to it as Xing out because it's a little X, but it's closing the program. And close the program. Okay, and then we're going to spend a little time down here. I'm going to move this out of our way. And we're going to spend a little time down here with our system tray. Okay, The system tray is usually at the bottom next to the clock, and it contains the icons for easy access to system functions, such as your internet connection, your volume, your battery level, and more things that you can do. So if everyone can see down here, here's my date and time. And then over here, my new notifications, which is basically telling me that I don't have any viruses on the computer right now since the last scan. I can change my volume level. And I encourage you to practice these on your Windows 10 computer, or feel free to come into the library and practice on our computers. All of our public computers are Windows 10 computers, and you can practice some of these things, like moving your volume up and down. I don't know if you're going to hear any difference in my speaking when I move it up and down, but you can see it's moving up and down there. Okay. And then for connecting to Wi-Fi, here I am connected to a Wi-Fi network here in the library. And you can see here the Champaign Public Library Network. So if you were here in the library, connect to Wi-Fi right from down here. And then I can also see the battery life on my laptop. And that's really important because sometimes, you know, if you're doing something and you don't have it plugged in, your battery life, so here I'm gonna unplug it for a second. So you see how it changed slightly there? If you can see when I have it plugged in, it looks like there's a little battery, a little cord that shows up there, a little plug. And when I take that away, then I can come down here and hover over it, and it's going to tell me how much battery life is remaining on my device. So that's one of those very important things to see. If you need to do an update or anything like that, this is my computer telling me that I need to restart my device to install some updates. So that's a nice little notice there. And then over here, this is telling me that Zoom and Google Chrome are using my microphone. So that's a little microphone symbol. If I hit the caret, it's going to show me some other icons that exist here, other things that I can open. But I want you to know that the system tray is also where you can find your date, your time, and then control some different things about your system. Okay, any questions about that? No?
Doesn't look like it so far.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and move on then to talk a little bit about File Explorer. File Explorer is one of the most useful, I think, one of the most useful programs that you can have on a Windows computer. With File Explorer, you can find your files in your programs. So for us, down here on the taskbar, we've pinned it to the taskbar, which means we've selected that it will always be here and show up in this little list right here, these little icons. So it looks like a manila folder, and if I tap on it, it's going to open something called File Explorer. And File Explorer gives you access to file management, where you can browse for files and folders on your computer. And you can also check to see how much space you've used up on your computer. You can organize your files and folders. You can see here I have a couple of files and folders, some pictures, and desktop and everything else. So File Explorer is one of those really nice tools to use to find files and folders. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and close out of that. And I'm also going to mention that down here in the search function, you can also use the search function to find files and folders if you need to. But I think it's nice to be able to go and find them in File Explorer too. Okay. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and open File Explorer again. We'll talk just a little bit about this PC. So for most of us with Windows computers, we have something called this PC. This PC is essentially like your filing cabinet at home, where you can open the different drawers. And when you open the different drawers, then you can find all of your hanging file folders. So this PC is a little bit like that. It's basically the starting point to access your disks, your folders, and files on your PC computer. So this PC lets me access the desktop. Oh, and you can see how much space you have. So where you see where it says devices and drives, this is how much space I have on my laptop. And you can get to your desktop, where then you can find all of your icons and your files. You have documents. Okay, so this is all places where you could create folders and files and where you can put everything. Okay, so that's this PC. All right. Okay. Any questions about this PC? Okay. Okay. We're going to go ahead and move on to settings. And our settings menu lets us customize the experience that we'll have on the computer. So we can change our display settings. So if you're like me and you want to have bigger icons and have it be easier to see what's on your desktop and have text be bigger, you can change and customize that experience. And you can connect to the internet and adjust the volume, add accounts. You can do a lot of stuff from the settings menu. And the easiest way, I think, to get to the settings menu is to come down to the start menu down here and then go into the one that looks like a little gear. That is your settings menu. And in general, for most tech nowadays, the little gear equals settings. So if you have an iPad or a smartphone, generally speaking, to get to the settings where you can change things about the display or how things function, it usually looks like a little gear. So we're going to go ahead and go into settings. And you can see here our Windows settings. And here are the different things that we can look up and do stuff with. So one of the things you might take a closer look at is personalization, where you can pick your background screen. So here I have my photo of the library. But again, those screenshots we took had this background. Okay, so you can jump back and forth and you can change them and put whatever you want there. That's one way you can customize things. You can change the theme of your computer, and you can change that taskbar we just did. You can change what's on the taskbar too, and how to move and interact with that taskbar in your settings. Okay, I'm gonna go back here for a second. The other thing you can do in your settings, I'm gonna move on down here a little bit. You can do things like your display, like we were just talking about. So if I want to change my display, if I look at System, I see Display, Sound, Notifications, and Power. I'll tap on System, and I can change how bright, and I don't know if this is going to come across very well or not. Are you seeing my screen change brightness? I don't know if you are or not.
Can't tell much of a difference,
Okay.
but I can see that the numbers are sliding.
Okay, so yeah, as I slide these numbers down, my screen gets darker, or I can make it brighter. And then you also have, if you're familiar with this on smartphones or tablets, you have a Nightlight version, which sets it to be more of a warm tone. So you can set that, and you can set what time it starts. You can also change your scale and layout, which right now I have it set at 150% so that it's easier for everyone to see what I'm working with in this webinar. But if I wanted to go back, I could tap here and go back to just 100% or 125%, which is what's recommended for my particular laptop. So I encourage you to go ahead and play around with some of these settings. If you see over here also in the systems, again, remember we said it was a system tray. Here are some things that are involved in the system. So we also have our battery. So since this isn't a laptop, I can come to my battery here. I can see how much I've got. I can turn on battery saver. I can do other things to kind of customize the experience I get with the battery, okay? And I can also do things with sound. So if I hit sound, again, here's my volume. Again, this is in system, down here on the system tray as well, but I can also change it here. And I can also do things with my microphone or, speakers, everything there that has to do with sound. Okay, so I just wanted you to kind of get an idea that you can go into your settings and you can set things and kind of customize your experience with your Windows laptop. Okay, just like you could on your tablet or on a MacBook. Okay, so when I'm all done here, and I'm going to move that a little bit so you can see, again, same thing up here in the corner. I have the minimize, the maximize, and the close buttons. So if I go ahead and say, all right, I'm going to close that, and it's going to go away. Okay. There's also, we were going to say, there's also a help menu on your computer. And Windows 10 has two things that are similar to your tablet. One of them is called Cortana. And Cortana is a little bit like, if you know or have heard of Siri for your computer, Cortana is a little bit like Siri. It will talk to you and tell you different things about your device. But you can also come down here and find your help menu. So to find your help menu, you can search for help with the search function here by just typing in the word help. And it's going to give you the best match, which is the help app on your computer. And if you tap on that, you can open up the help app and you can search for whatever you need help with. And this links in with the Microsoft Store. So for example, if I needed help with, anybody have an example of something that you've had to get help with on your computer recently? Something like, maybe we want to know how to change the display, the size of our icons on our display. So we could put in display, and then you see how it comes up with how to change display settings in Windows. You can tap on that. And this is going to tell us how we can change different things. So we just talked about the desktop background and colors. This is how we could change the desktop background or colors. To view our display settings, change the screen resolution. That's what we just did when we did it from, you know, or we changed the size. And then you can see some other examples of what they can help you with here, okay? So that's one way to find the help menu and get help with whatever you might need with your computer, okay? And that's searching for the help app. You can also go into, if you have web access, you can also go to support.microsoft.com/Windows. And here it's a little bit like Googling something, but you could ask for help here, and I could say, you know, change display, and then we could say, let's say display settings, and then hit that and see what happens. So here again, you get how to change the desktop icon screen size, resolution, and it walks you step by step how to do these things, okay? So I wanted to make sure that that was there for you as well. All right, any questions about using help or the settings?
No, we're still clear for questions so far.
All right, excellent. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead.
I think we might have one.
Sure,
okay,
absolutely.
Great. If the person raising your hand here, Elizabeth, I could allow you to talk if you're interested.
Absolutely.
All right, I'm going to allow you to talk, and then we'll see if.
I'm going to move this out of the way a little bit more too. Oops, sorry about that.
Oh, hello.
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 Oh, hi. Sorry. How do you increase? I have a Mac Air, and the notice to what's the word, to upload, you know, to update came up, and when I clicked on it said I don't have enough space, or I don't remember the exact wording, but I don't know how to use what I have to take out or whatever. I know I have a lot of pictures there, but I don't know if that's what.
Yeah, so usually when you update your computer, and this is true for Windows computers too, and you don't have enough space to complete the update, it'll give you a message like that, and it'll say, you know, you don't have enough space. And again, one way to check that is when you go to the File Explorer, or for you it would be the Finder on the Mac, and you can look and see how much space you have. So when I do it here, I would go to this PC, and then I can see my local disk down here that I have 10 GB.
I saw that.
Yeah. So for me, if my Windows update says you need at least, you know, 10.5 GB of space, then I know I can't do it because I'm going to need to take some stuff off of the computer. So at that point, you have the choice of saying, okay, you know, maybe I take some of my pictures and I put them on a flash drive, or I put them on an external hard drive, or, you know, I put them in the cloud. And you know, take them off of the because on your actual computer only has a finite amount of storage or a finite amount of space. And the more and more stuff that you put on it, you know, then you have less space to add other things. So sometimes you do have to do that, where you have to decide, okay, I'm going to take these things off and put them somewhere else, and then it'll allow you to do the update. Okay. So yeah, great question. Yeah, and one way to know if you have updates, down here in your notifications, down here in the system tray, for me it's the system tray on a Windows 10 computers, it'll tell you up here in those notifications, it'll tell you, you know, there's a new update for you. And oftentimes those updates are really important because they help with security for your device, and they do patches to prevent, you know, loopholes, as it were, on the machines. So it's good to do updates if you can. Yeah.
So how do I know all the excess I have? I know I have lots of pictures. I don't even know what else I have there.
Yeah, so for you, again, the Finder on a Mac, just like the File Explorer here on a PC, and you can go through and, you know, if you have a folder full of pictures, go in and see what ones are there, you know, if you don't need them anymore, and then you can delete them, you can drag them to that recycle bin or the trash on a Mac. If you don't want to keep them, but if you want to keep them and they're important, you want to back them up, you know, then you could put them on that flash drive or some other form of media.
And am I able to see like extra windows I didn't know to close out completely, or so many of those type of things I can erase, you know, delete? Will I be able to see all the other stuff which are in storage, you know, in storage?
Yeah. Yes, for you that would be, yeah, with the Finder, you can go through and you know, see how much space each of your apps is taking up, and you know, decide from there.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Great question.
Susan, we do have another one. Oh,
absolutely.
Well, I thought we did. If that person's interested in that question, we can just raise your hand again. Oh, yep, we have a couple.
Okay,
all right.
Sure, absolutely.
All right, Nancy, I'm gonna let you speak because I believe you were next.
I'll move this out of the way for everybody too.
Now, can you hear me?
Yes.
I can, yes. Welcome.
Did you hear me before?
Just now.
Okay. When you did settings, there are systems, I wrote down sound and microphone. When I have done Zoom for another group, my picture never comes up and I can't find any place that says how I enable that. And my husband uses the same computer, and when he goes to his meeting, his picture shows up. So what should I be looking under?
Yeah, so when you go to Zoom, and we'll go ahead and answer this, and then I'll show you everybody how to do the startup and shutdown information, and then we'll open it up for other questions too. With Zoom, when you go to Zoom and you log in on either a browser version, so like if I was to go to Firefox here and go to zoom.us, and it probably will, oh, it doesn't have me signed in, okay. And then you would sign in. And then if you go to where it says profile, you go to your profile settings within Zoom, you can upload a picture to it. So if you're seeing right now on my Zoom here, I know you're seeing my screen, but you should also be able to see a picture, like a headshot of me, if I've uploaded it, and then you can see it. So we can cover that in more detail in another minute too, and I can actually show you where that part is in Zoom once I've logged in and not in the middle of the webinar.
Okay.
And then I can show you that too, because if I start, usually with me, if I start my video and everybody can see me here, hi, and then I stop my video, it goes to my picture, which is my profile picture that I have. If you're on the web version, it doesn't always do that. But if you're on this version here that has the little blue icon with the white, looks like a video camera, then it should revert to your profile photo. Have you found that to be true as well, Jordan? And Kat? They've both used it a lot too with Zoom.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and I just default to signing into all the things, to be honest.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and minimize that again. And that's one of those things where you have to have the picture on your computer. So as long as you have the picture saved on your computer, then you can go to your profile in Zoom and you can upload the picture. And then you upload it to your Zoom profile. Then it should appear whenever your video is not on in meetings.
Okay.
Hope that helps. And if you want, we can also do a book a librarian too, where we could walk you through the steps of setting that up too, if you wanted.
Okay.
So, all right. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead. If there are no more questions about settings and the help menu for Windows 10, I'll go ahead and move on to the startup and shutdown portion. But before I do that, I don't want to leave anyone behind. So if there are any other questions.
There are a couple of raised hands. I don't know if you want to, okay.
Okay, sure, yes, yeah.
So Janice, if you want to raise your hand again, I could let you speak if you're still interested. If not, I'll move on. Okay, we'll let Janice speak.
Okay.
Well, I'll let Paul speak. I'm not sure if Janice is still interested. Okay, Paul, go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I can, yes.
Oh, okay. Okay, I had a question, but this was probably, you had talked about doing a screenshot.
Mm-hmm.
Is that part, how do you do a screenshot again? You said something about using a scissors or skip?
Yes, so there's something on Windows 10 called the Snipping Tool. And if I come into my search menu here and I go Snipping Tool, and you'll see it come up here as a little app. The Snipping Tool, and I'm hoping you can see this. You can see this, right, Jordan?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the Snipping Tool allows you to take pictures of what you can see on your screen, and you can do parts of it or the whole screen. So, and you can also use the delay function if it's something from like a pull down menu like this is, where it says, you know, I tap on this and I say, 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 5 seconds, the machine will actually count to 5 before it says, okay, let's take a screenshot. So if I was going to take a screenshot right now of this screen, what I could do is just hit new, and then does everybody see how now I have this little thing that I can trace across?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if this will come through on Zoom. Did it? Oh, good. First time trying to do a screenshot through Zoom, kind of in a meta way here.
Yeah, and also just to clarify, just in case for those who this is new to, the grayed out or white portion would be what you wouldn't see captured in the image.
Yes. So right now, if I was taking a screenshot and I wanted everybody to see what the recycle bin looks like, for example, I could take just this little corner right here and then let go, and it's going to take a little picture of the recycle bin icon like that. So that's the Snipping Tool, and that allows you to take screenshots of what you see on your screen. And then you can put it wherever you want. You could take it to Microsoft Word, or you know, copy and paste it somewhere else. You can save it to the computer. So it's something we use a lot in these workshops. Like most of our PowerPoints, what you see with the images in those handouts, those are all screenshots that we've taken, where we then call out details of, you know, you're wanting to click here. We, you know, put the red box around something. That's all being done with the Snipping Tool. Thank you. Great question.
Okay, Janice, I'm going to let Janice speak because Janice has been very patient. I'm sorry, Janice. All right. You should be able to speak now, Janice. Thank you for your patience.
Any luck?
All right, we can move on. Janice, whenever you have the ability to speak, if you'd like to.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Now can you hear me now?
Yes.
We sure can, yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. Before I got interrupted, but when you were talking about this PC, and that's kind of like compared to a file where you open that and you have a listing of all your file, right? That's, yeah. So how do you get to that?
Yep. So what I've done at the moment is I'm coming down here to the taskbar and going to the File Explorer, which is the one that looks like the little manila envelope. If you don't have it saved down here on your taskbar, you can also find File Explorer by coming over here to your search and typing in File Explorer like that, and it'll come up here too. And then when you click on it to open it, and then you can get to basically, this shows you everything that's on your computer. So my analogy is a little bit like if you had a filing cabinet at your house where you kept all of your important papers and documents, and it has, you know, say it has 3 drawers or something. This PC is all of those together. It's the whole filing cabinet. And then each of the things underneath it, like your local disk C here, is going to be one of those drawers where if you pulled the drawer out and you were looking specifically in local disk C for something, then you would find it there. And if you had a flash drive and you had plugged the flash drive into the computer, that would come up, say, as disk like D, right? So then that would be another drawer in your filing cabinet where you would open it and be like, okay, I'm looking for stuff that is on D. So
okay, all right. Yes, that helps, definitely. Thank you very much.
We'll cover even more about that next week in the file organization class and the file storage class in the next 2 weeks, where we'll actually go into a lot more depth about how this is organized and some best practices for organizing files and things like that too.
Oh, good. All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for your question.
There's one question that's popped up in the chat too.
Okay, sure.
There's actually 2 there, and so, and we might need some clarification. The first question is, how do you decrease or increase? And then I believe the second question is, what is Photo Booth? Because you mentioned it earlier.
Oh, Photoshop? Yes. I think that's the one that I mentioned. Probably. But double check and make sure if it's Photo Booth, that is an app that's on usually on MacBooks.
Okay, I think they're going to clarify by speaking.
Yes. Okay, yeah. Let's let Elizabeth speak.
Go ahead, Elizabeth. Hey, you should be able to speak, Elizabeth, whenever you're ready.
I said I decided to raise my hand. I didn't get to take the rest of the question off. That's when I was asking about storage, you know, like decreasing or increasing storage on into that.
Yeah, I mean, you can also, one of the other ways you can increase storage on your physical computer is to basically buy more storage for the physical computer too. But that's a pretty technical and advanced process. So you could talk to someone at a computer, at a computer repair shop or something about, increasing the size of your internal hard drive too. But that's something that a professional would probably be able to help you, and talk through your options about that.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Okay, we're good on questions so far, Susan. Thank you.
Okay, sure. Okay, so our last set, we're pretty much at the end here. Thank you everybody for sticking with us, and I'm happy to stick around and answer any other questions you may have too. The last thing I want to cover real quick is starting up the computer and shutting down the computer. And we're going to kind of do this in an interesting way, since I don't actually want to shut down my computer, because that would, of course, end our webinar. And so what I'm going to do is just kind of show you what the options are and talk through what the different options mean. So I'm going to come down to my Start menu and tap on it. And right here, where there's the circle with the little line bisecting part of it, that is a universal symbol for power. So you may have seen this if you have a tablet or a smartphone as well. And it's kind of the universal symbol for power on most devices nowadays. I've even seen it on electronic incense, aromatherapy candle type things, and most electronic devices. So you can pick from here for your different power options. So when I tap on it, you're going to see right now, and this is great because I also have the update Yay! So it's a good time, good live demo example. So here are the different options I have for what I can do with my computer. If I put it to sleep, the PC stays on, but it uses low power, and the apps are open. So the fact that I have over here on my taskbar, you can see I have Chrome open because it has a little line underneath it. I have Zoom open with a little line underneath it, and our PowerPoint with our little line underneath it. So all three of these things would stay open and active when I put it to sleep. So when I come back to it, the PC is going to wake up and everything is going to be right where I left it. So I tend to use sleep, not necessarily to conserve energy by putting it into the low power state, but more often because my cats really like the warmth of my laptop. And if I leave it unattended, they will come and sleep on it. And then they will start typing accidentally on the keys into whatever I'm working on. So the other thing you can do for putting it to sleep is you don't have to necessarily come here and say, I want you to sleep. You can just close the lid of the laptop and that will put it into sleep mode. So what I generally do is, if I'm gonna leave the room where my laptop is for a few minutes and it's gonna be unattended in my house, I will close the lid so that the cats don't come and sleep on the keyboard or get cat hair all over the keyboard. So that's one advantage to sleep. Then I can just come right back, open the lid back up, and start back wherever I was, okay? Shutdown allows you to completely shut down the computer, and it closes all of the programs and turns off the computer's power. So that's when you want to completely shut everything down, like you're not going to touch it for a while, okay? Restart, the full restart here, restart closes all the programs and finalizes all the pending input and output, which is basically a fancy way of saying anything that's that's in process at that point. And then the computer will shut down, and then it'll start back up. So it'll immediately start the process of loading the operating system and then loading all the files and things again. Restart is something you might use a lot when you have updates. So if you want to install the update and restart, it closes all the apps, updates the PC, turns it off, and then restarts it so you can go back to what you were working on, okay? So that's, and sometimes when you want to do an update and you want it to just, you want to shut down the computer, you can do update and shutdown, which means it's going to update the computer in the background and then it's going to shut the computer off. So it's nice to see these here too, because that gives you a good idea of, if I have an update, possible update, usually I will hit update and restart if I'm in the middle of something, or if I'm going to leave and not work on the computer for a bit, I'll do the update and shut down. Okay, so those are the different power options. You also have two other settings that you can work with, especially if you share your computer with another person. And that is under the user settings, where I can either lock my computer, which means I'm going to leave my computer. I want it on, I want it running, and I'm just going to go run an errand. But I don't want anybody else to get on it or do anything with it. I can lock it. And what that means is that then I have to come back and I have to put in the password to get back into it. So that is one thing you can do to prevent someone else from walking up to your computer, which you've left unattended for some reason, and get on it and do stuff, okay? Sign out means that you are signing out of your profile on the computer and your files. And if someone else, so for example, you can see here, we have an IT profile on this computer because IT has administrative privileges to do other things that make my work laptop run. So if they need to do something for my computer to run or do something, they can sign in as IT, their profile, and do whatever they need to do.
We have a great question in the chat. Do
Sure.
you always have to leave the computer charging for it to upgrade?
You do not. So in the case of a laptop, it's actually a good idea to sometimes let the battery go all the way down and then plug it in and charge it. Now, for updates, if it's actively doing an update, you do want to, I always plug it in, and usually they recommend you plug it in for the whole time that it's doing an update, just because if you're low on battery life and your computer shuts off, remember that's shutting off all of the processes and all of the programs and all of the things it's doing. So if your computer is in the middle of an update and suddenly you have no battery life, the computer might not be able to complete that update. So as a general rule, I always leave it plugged in while it's updating, but then once it's updated, I will go ahead and unplug it. Kind of like if for anyone with a smartphone or tablet, I know I keep referencing smartphones and tablets. It's the same idea when they install updates. They usually suggest you plug it in with the cord while it installs the update, and then you can unplug it again once it's done. So in general times, I do not always leave it plugged in, but when it's installing an update, I do. And yes, that's a great question. I hope that sort of answers. Because there's different schools of thought on how to prolong the battery life of a laptop, and there's a bunch of myths and misunderstandings that kind of surround it too, because your battery on a laptop has a finite amount of times it can charge. So you really want to make sure that you're letting it complete those battery cycles too. Thank you. Great question. Other questions? I'll go ahead and stop sharing there.
We do have another question.
Okay.
Nancy, I'll
Sure.
go ahead and let you speak.
See if my video will come back up here. There we go.
I
All
bet
right. Oh, go ahead,
I bet
Nancy.
you didn't hear any of that. Did
Not
you
yet.
hear any of that?
We can hear you now, though.
Okay. The first time I wrote in the chat and I couldn't tell whether I had sent it. I don't know how to send it. Does it just come automatically when you punch chat?
So for chat, once you've typed your question, if you hit enter on the keyboard or in the chat, there's also, there's a little, I think that's the best way to do it, is just to go ahead and hit enter, and then it'll send it.
Okay, I think I typed it and didn't have anything about enter.
Okay,
And
but
so
yeah, we
then,
can also, I can also answer it out loud too if you want to share it out loud.
well, some of it's not always relevant. Okay, so anyway, I guess it didn't come off of mute. So I'm sitting here talking to you with raised hand. Then I realize I'm on mute.
Yeah, and that's pretty common. That's pretty common with everyone in the Zoom environment too. I've definitely, I definitely have done that where I've been on mute and not realized it until I started talking, and everybody else was like, "We can't hear you."
Yeah, that might be why some of those other people were not coming through when they were talking.
Yeah. So
okay.
it is a whole new world with the electronic communication too.
Okay. That's it. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah,
Elizabeth,
thank
you
you.
should be able to talk now.
I was just wondering if you're going to be talking, you're going to be doing storage, right? Or something like that, filing. Are you going to talk how to store like the pictures, to set to the iCloud? I don't really know how when my pictures go to iCloud or they're just there in the, I don't know. I'm
So
about iCloud.
The classes in the next 2 weeks are a little bit more basic, where we're covering, but we will cover cloud storage a little bit. And then we do actually have a class that will be in the summer, a little bit later in the summer, entirely on cloud storage and how it works, and we'll demo a couple of cloud storage options. If you want specifically to like show us how everything's set up for you specifically, because it does with cloud, especially with like iCloud or Google Drive, you kind of set that up specifically so that if it's syncing across your devices, or not. So it may be that if you have an iPhone and a MacBook, you know, and an iPad, they all have exactly the same images on them. But if you delete an image off of one of them, it deletes it off the others if they're synced. And that's something that might be more individual. So you might look at setting up a book a librarian with someone here at the library, and we can kind of walk through some of that with you too. But we do have a class on cloud storage, and we will talk a little bit about cloud storage as an option in the next 2 weeks with those classes.
So do the photos go to iCloud automatically if I take a picture?
Again, it depends entirely. Yeah, it depends on how you have it set up. So if you're taking a picture with a phone and you have it backing up to the cloud, to iCloud, then yes, it would go to iCloud as well. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely, yeah. And again, you know, we're happy to help. We're happy to answer your questions. So if you want more of an explanation of iCloud specifically and things like that, please feel free to reach out to us. You know, reach out via email, or we have a form on our website. Let me share my screen again here real quick, and I will show you. It's going to get meta again for a second. I'm hoping you can see my screen. If you go to champaign.org, and then click on Contact Us up here at the top. Are you, Kat, are you seeing this?
Yes, yeah, I see it.
Okay,
and it
perfect.
looks just
Thank
like
you.
it would to see the whole screen, yeah.
Perfect, okay. And then you can go to Contact Us, and then down here where it says Book a Librarian, and you can fill out this form. And if you put in, want help with iCloud for MacBook Air, and you could put that here in the detail of what you're hoping to learn, and then we can contact you and set up an appointment and work through some of the individual questions that you have too. Okay, and that actually lets me segue into a good spot about some other resources for Windows computers, including GCF Learn Free. .org, which is a website where they have a lot of technology tutorials too. So if you go to their technology section here, and this is in the handout, this is in the additional resources section of the handout, so everybody will get this through email too. But there's a whole section for Windows and Windows 10. So I can tap on the Windows 10 section, and this will walk you through a tutorial for Windows 10 and how to get started with it, pretty much like what we just did in this class, but with some extra, like example, what we talked about, personalizing your desktop, like adding your photo, seeing how bright you want it to be, and all of these things. So this is another one you might be interested in taking a look at. And then we also have LinkedIn Learning and Gale courses through the library. So if you do have a Champaign card, you can also use those resources and take some of the technology workshops that they have about Windows 10 computers too. So, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing. Jump back in here. Start my video back up. And then I did want to mention too, since now we've mentioned it a couple of times, the next two classes are getting started with file organization, and then get intro to file storage. So those are definitely great workshops to take if you want some hints for how to find your files and find folders and know where you've put stuff and how to find it again. And then also how to keep track of how much space you have left on the machine. And we'll talk a little bit about backup options like using cloud sources or external hard drives.
It looks like we had one little question from Nancy, although it might have been from earlier.
Sure.
This is where I can get my picture to show in a Zoom meeting sometimes. I remove things from recent things and get extra storage. By chance? Is that by chance, or does that work?
So there may be a couple, is that a couple of different questions possibly?
Yeah, it looks like she's got her hand raised, so I don't know if we want to unmute her and just like clarify it that one.
Absolutely. Sure. Yeah. For those of you, the rest of you that are here, if you're welcome to stick around while we answer some questions too. But I've covered everything that we were really going to cover for the intro to Windows 10. So you're welcome to stick around, or you're welcome to go ahead and move on to your next adventure for the day.
And Nancy, you should be able to speak.
I'm speaking now.
Yes, we can hear you.
My question came up here over to the side. It's a combination of my first one and my second one.
Okay.
Okay. I think since I have the Windows 10, there's something that comes up, what you've worked with recently or something like that.
Yes. Yeah.
And,
your recent files or documents.
And like if I've copied my document or my pictures under my computer, whatever, I have them saved. So if I get rid of those on recently used or something, sometimes that has given me more space for my to do an update or something. Is that in my mind, or is that true?
Yeah. So whenever you're doing an update and it asks you, basically the computer says, I need more space to run and do this update for the computer. Then you do, you have to go and look for, what you've done and what you've put on the machine, and pick some things to take them off. Usually if it's just, like for example, if it's just showing up, like I'm trying to think of a good way to do recent documents. If it shows up here as a recent document, like right here where it says documents, and then you can click on it and it'll show you a list of the things that you've opened recently.
Right.
If you remove them from this list, it's just removing them from this list of recent documents. It's not actually removing the documents from the computer. In order to remove documents from the computer, and we'll talk about this more next week with the recycle bin too, but in order to remove something from the computer, you have to drag it to the recycle bin, or tell it to go to the recycle bin and then empty the recycle bin. So you can put it all in there, and it's a trash can, just like a physical trash can would be. But until you empty the trash, it's still there taking up space on the computer. So if you delete the file, so for example, let me just, let's create a Word document. So I'm gonna go into Word 2016, and we'll create a Word document here. Oops. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and create that, and then I'll save it. I come down to save as, and I'll save it right to the desktop, and I'm gonna call it Word 111. Okay, and when you take the class next week, I'll preface this by saying we would not normally use a name like that as a best practice, but for today, for right now, we're just gonna do that. So, okay, now if I go to my desktop and I look for it and I try to find Word 111, here's where that file is.
Susan, did you want to be screen sharing? I'm sorry. Did you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, am I not, is it not screen sharing? Okay,
No.
thank you, Jordan.
Sorry.
I will screen share. Okay, thank you. No, thank you for saying that. I thought I was still screen sharing. Okay, so let's go ahead and share. Okay, so here, so what I just was talking through while I did it was basically creating a Word document. So it's a file, and I put it on the desktop, and I named it Word 111. So this is a file that I've made and created. And if I don't want it anymore, or I need to delete it to free up some space, I will drag it and drop it in the recycle bin over here. Then I still have to right-click and say empty recycle bin for it to actually remove it completely from the computer. Okay, and we'll talk a little bit more about that next week and at the end of the month when we do storage, because we'll talk about how the recycle bin, anything in the recycle bin is still taking up space on the computer. So when you need more space, go ahead.
Is that in that C?
Yes, so this one is in C, yeah. So the local disk C is basically just the name of your hard drive on the computer. So anything that's saved on the computer is basically saved in that local disk in this particular case. You know, if I had a flash drive and I put a flash drive in here and that was D, and I had a file on the flash drive called, you know, Word 111 on the flash drive, and I moved that to the recycle bin and emptied the recycle bin, that would remove it from the flash drive. Okay, and you can delete it from the flash drive.
But if I have a lot of things in my trash, that recycle bin up there, that's still taking up a bunch of space on my hard drive. Is that right?
Correct. Yes, until you empty it.
So sometimes I've seen in that I might have 2,000 something, so that's wasting a lot of my space.
Yeah, so, and you can also see, if I click on the recycle bin here, and I'm looking at, you know, these 2 items that are in here, and I'm saying, okay, well, that's only 2. That's not a whole, you know, and this is probably, you know, not even, like, it's not much. I wrote 1 sentence, right? So if I selected everything in here, note down here that it says 2 items selected, but if I tap on this, down at the bottom here, it says 1 item selected, and it tells me how much space it's taking up.
Okay.
So it's 11.1 kilobytes. So that's not a lot of space that this one document is taking up. But if you have a whole bunch of stuff in that recycle bin, then you know, you might have, you know, a gig or more, or, you know, and we'll talk about file sizes too in the next 2 classes too. So you'll understand, like, megabytes, kilobytes, gigabytes, terabytes, all the bytes. You know, people were hungry, I guess, when they decided to do computers and name everything after bytes, but but yeah, so we'll cover that too. But yes, if things are in the recycle bin, they're still on the computer, and that's nice, and they do that deliberately so that you can possibly restore something if you accidentally threw it in the trash, right?
Right.
So if you threw a rough draft of something into the you know, the office recycle bin, and then you were like, you know what, I really do want that, and you went over and you picked it back up and pulled it out, that's a lot like what the recycle bin is.
Right. Okay. Well, you have that quick access up there. That's where when I have copied something off of a flash stick that's got a lot of stuff, that takes up a lot of that space, right?
Yes. So the quick access,
My thing always says, it doesn't have delete, it has remove from quick access.
Yes.
Is that all going into that trash recycle bin?
Yeah, so the quick access is actually something that File Explorer does to help you reach things that you've used recently.
You might want to work on again.
Exactly, or things that you often get to. So, and we'll talk about this again in the file organization class, because these things, if you see the little push pin here, that means we've pinned it to the quick access, and we can pick stuff or take it off of here if we don't want it to be here in quick access. So the quick access is really just a way of finding things a little bit faster that you maybe use a lot, or the computer detects that you open a lot. So these inherently in itself are just like it's just a shortcut. It's basically just a shortcut to get to something.
Okay, so did you click on that pin to get rid of it, or?
So yeah, so if you don't want it to be there, you can right click on it on the little pin here, and you can up here at the top, you can unpin. Let me pull one that, for example, like headshots. So these are the headshots that we did for me. I can right click and I can say, you know, pin to quick access, if you see that right there. And then that'll pin it up here at the top. So if I do that, pin to quick access, and again, we'll do that again. So there it is here. Now, if I don't want it there, I can say, you know, remove, let's see, remove or unpin from quick access.
Okay.
And it'll take it out.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Right. And we will actually cover that next week. And I have slide, you know, in the handout, that whole process.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Happy to help.
Okay.
I'll go ahead and stop sharing here and jump back in. All right. Put my video back on. Any other questions? Pull back up my video.
Not as of right now, in case somebody else has something to add, but I don't see any new questions.
Excellent. Well, I want to thank everybody for coming today. And again, feel free to come for the next 2 weeks as well. We'll cover a lot more of this foundational stuff with files and storage, and you know, kind of how things can operate and make things a little bit more easy for you on the machine. And we do, of course, have the Book of Librarians, and we will, of course, send out a link to the video and a link to a feedback form. We always appreciate feedback. So if you let us know how you thought the class went, feel free to send some feedback as well, and we'll answer some of the major questions too. So
Well, great,
All
Susan.
right.
Thank you very much. That was wonderful.
Thank
and I
you.
believe you've mentioned a few times which the next Getting Started webinar was for next week. So,
Yes.
all right. So I don't think we have anything else, and I don't see any further questions.
All right.
So
And again, you can always reach out to us via email to librarian@champaign.org, or mine is swinkler@champaign.org. Happy to answer any questions. Sorry to interrupt, Jordan.
No, that's okay. That's all I have. Well, I hope everyone has a nice afternoon, and thank you all for joining us. I'm going to go ahead and end the webinar. Take care, everyone.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.